Did you know that less than 30% of Kenyan parents know what their children consume online? That is according to an adolescent's online behavior research report that was launched today in Nairobi. Speaking when released the report on the survey, Mr. Jose Sorel, who is the president and co-founder of Achilles Networks, say that these should sound their alarm bells and make parents pay close attention to their children online activities, adding that the study offered the company an insight to the impact of using educative entertainment content to shape teenage knowledge, perception, and behavior. Kabila with the report.
Space, time, and privacy.
The temptation by any parent to snoop on what their children are watching on TV, mobile, or the internet comes naturally. The fast evolving digital space with an accelerated and highly accessible multitude of engagement platforms should keep almost all parents worried, but not so. According to a research report conducted by global research firm 60 Decibels for social impact firm Achilles Network, less than 30% of the Kenyan parents know what their children consume online. According to the Achilles Network president and co-founder Jose Sorel, just 27% of the Kenyan parents with teenagers aged between 12 and 19 regularly spoke to their children about what they consume online. A staggering 44% were inconsistent, 18% rarely, while 11% didn't even bother.
If you ask a parent what your kids watch, did you watch with them, you're going to get a different answer than if you just ask a parent, what did you watch? Safe is important. Safe means I'm not going to accidentally see an exorcism, which is a true story. I'm not going to accidentally see people kissing. I'm not going to accidentally see something completely inappropriate, ultra-violent, or even violent. Like, I'm not going to accidentally go to that next video because I have control over it, which is awesome for us if that's what we want to see. But if you've got kids, you really probably don't want them picking whatever they want to see.
Studies show that watching TV can have great benefits to children and teens, including enhancing their critical thinking skills, sharing of cultural experiences, values and life lessons, socializing, and widening their perspectives about their society and the world. According to the Communications Authority of Kenya Director General Ezra Chiloba, who was represented by the authority's acting Assistant Director Peter Ikumilu, the regulatory body is focused to ensuring the generation of content fit for children and which must stand the test of relevance and utility.
It shows that watching TV can have great benefits to children and teens, including enhancing their critical thinking skills, sharing of cultural experiences, values and life lessons, socializing and widening their perspective about their society and the world. Our focus then must be on ensuring we create content fit for children and which must stand the test of relevance and utility. As we conceptualize and produce such content, we must bear in mind the whole impact of such content on children's psychological well-being. That's why the authority, through its content monitoring role, has been able to flag certain programming deemed unsuitable for children, even when aired within children programming timelines, that is, within the Watershed Period. We are keen on protecting the interests of our children with respect to the content they consume on TV and online, and we call upon all players in this space to support these endeavors so that our children grow in safe spaces, both offline and online.
Another finding, how TV can make children and families safer and smarter, by research firm Ipsos, also released at the same event, encourage parents to use TV more by watching and discussing content together with their children. According to the report, by the end of last year, TV viewing in Kenya stood at 74%, slightly behind radio at 79%, and way ahead of the internet at 46%. Mobile phone usage stood at a high 92%, backing the findings by 60 decibels that children access to content via mobile phones was growing exponentially and needed to be monitored. TV has proved to be a very effective medium, on par with radio in reach and engagement at the family level, and is safer than personalized platforms like mobile phones and computers. Among households with the children of the age 0 to 6, Achilles Kids was the most watched with an average rating of 6.7. Hilary Kabila, GBS News.
And on that note, that ushers our topic tonight, where we'll be talking about the impact of TV programs on children and families. And of course, I feel pleased to say that I'm very privileged to have one of the founders of these very important TV programs for children, the Achilles Kids co-founder. Can you believe it? He's live here with me. Good evening. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, and delighted to be here.
And just to kickstart, of course, some of us have really grown up to seeing this Achilles Kids network, our families, our sisters, our children, they are watching this. Just give us a brief intro. What is this Achilles Kids?
So my co-founder, Jesse Soleil, who you've seen on the stage, and I had come to Kenya in 2012 and noticed that there was no good educational, entertaining content for children. And that gave us the idea that we could fill that gap. It took us some time to develop the plan. The Communication Authority was very helpful in getting us the license once we proposed the plan. It took some time to find investors who believed in our vision. But in September of 2019, we got the funding. And we had promised our investors 6 months later we would be on the air. And we launched 6.5 months later, March 31, 2020, 3 weeks after the country shut down for COVID. In terms of programming the channel, we approached it from the point of view of what were the criteria. So every show on Achilles Kids has a learning outcome. And that can be broadly defined. For young children, okay, they're going to learn the alphabet, they're going to learn numeracy, they're going to learn shapes. As you go up in age, it's different. It's critical thinking, it's imagination, it could be the role of gender. So we program up to age 17 and then in the evening for families. But the vision was that there was nothing good that was entertaining and learning and free and right for Kenya. So we rely on the Kenyan team to decide what would work here.
And you've talked about the process and everything. And of course, everybody knows that whatever starts, and of course, it's up to here. You did come across many challenges. What are some of these challenges as you're making this that you faced?
I think the first is funding. But once there was funding, I will say that the talent that we were able to find in Kenya to staff the team, the programming team, the marketing team, human resources, legal, was very strong. I think that we rushed because we knew that this thing called COVID might happen. And so we had to get servers into the country before the airport shut down. So it was, 72 hours later, we wouldn't have been on the air for 9 months. So there was some sort of challenges just in terms of timing because of COVID and our desire to get on the air as quickly as possible.
Now, from what I've heard from you, of course, talking about Achilles Kids, it's more focusing on the educative part. And you understand that education, it's interesting. But a lot of it can be very, very boring. To have a kid sit there and listen about algebra and learn maybe A, B, C, D. What criteria do you approach when making this program to make sure that it can maybe take in the attention of the child as they're watching?
So I think, one, we consider ourselves educational entertainment. So we are not going to be doing algebra. I mean, you may hear that algebra exists. You may use algebra in a fun show to figure out how to build a bridge that you can walk out from pasta. But we're not strictly educational. We're what you would call in the US supplemental education. So it's things that are around the curriculum that support whole child development. So when we looked out at the world of programming for children, there's some really great programs that are educational, that are motivational, but that are also entertaining. So it's really working with good people who know the market and can identify programs that kids who are 12 can enjoy. So Wild Kratts is a very popular nature show. 12, 13, 14-year-olds love the program.
Now, looking on your mission, I could see that the Achilles Kids mission is to become the most trusted and valued family brand throughout sub-Saharan Africa, creating and distributing content for TV, mobile, and the internet. Now, is this program, is it like different countries? Is it unique? Do you use a unique approach, or is it just universal?
we started in Kenya. We haven't yet expanded into the other countries, but that's our ambition over the next couple of years. I would say that the thing that we've done and tested, and I think done well in Kenya, based on the fact that currently we're reaching 8.3 million children every week, and it's 5.4 million adults or parents of children, is that we have worked hard to have the right amount of what I'll call local. So even though many of these programs are coming from outside of Kenya, we now are, I think this month will be 40% of programs will have been produced in Africa. The name of the channel, Achilles, means brain in Swahili. The way in which we're doing our interstitial programming, station IDs, so some of the things make it feel local. And I think that that's important when you kind of compare us to a Nickelodeon or a Disney Junior. They aren't on the ground here. Even though they may commission eventually some programs produced in Africa, they're not doing the extra work of having a big Kenyan team develop all of that interstitial wrapping around the channel that gives it its identity.
Just as you're talking about the way giving it identity and making it feel homely, I'd also like you to be very precise when you talk about, like, in times when we had like the COVID-19, kids were at home, the holidays, kids are at home. Other people, like maybe others, are living in the urban centers, and we have things like African-like culture. African culture. Do you have an incorporated education about culture as well? Do you have that approach?
I think that our goal is to do more and more local production. So I'd like to do a new show that's by kids for kids. That would be produced here. It would be able to look at many different topics. We hope to be a commissioning broadcaster where we're either us generating the ideas and then working with outside production companies and directors and producers and writers, or if someone comes to us and says, hey, I've got this great idea, help me further develop it. So right now we're working and providing input to producers who are doing a couple of children's shows where we're helping them with the roadmap or the blueprint or what we call the Bible for the program to help it get to the quality level that we would like to see.
And now, some of people will agree with me that watching doesn't necessarily mean you can watch an educative program, but that doesn't mean you're learning. You understand? For some children, of course, maybe most of them are learning. At what age do you say that this age is too young to watch television, or this age is okay to watch television? From your expertise kind of view.
It's something I've debated when I did educational software for children. So do you put on the package 0 to 3 or 3 and under and leave that decision up to the parent? So I think there is a role for the parent in terms of what are they comfortable with. I think there are continuing studies in terms of brain development, cognitive development, what's right, how much screen time. So that's an ongoing area of study and debate. I think for us, we do program programs that are appropriate for very young children, 3 and under, a different kind of programs for 4 to 6. So I think it's fine. We also encourage people not to spend all their time in front of the TV.
Yes.
I mean, that was actually one of the things that happened during COVID. When we initially launched, it was a 6-hour block that got repeated 3 times. We didn't have enough time to launch with 12 hours. And the common complaint we were getting was, well, you're repeating your shows too much. And we thought to ourselves, well, wait a minute, you shouldn't be watching 6 straight hours of TV, right?
Yeah.
So that was unusual during the time of COVID when you couldn't go outside and people were
considering that is fair, considering people needed some place to drive their energy because they were so at home. And now, I would tell you, like, from our times when we were studying, our parents used to tell us, you can't watch television, you have nothing to learn from television. We used to study from our books. There is a certain type of mindset maybe in those interior parts, with those Kenyans living in the interior parts, that maybe TV is for fun, TV is not educative. Maybe I would just like you, from an expertise, just talk to them and tell them, how can TV make a kid smarter?
So I think as you go up in age, so we'll put aside that for the youngest children, you can have programs that really prepare kids for school. I mean, they walk in, they know how to hold a pencil. They know the alphabet, they know numbers, they know multiplication, they know a lot of things. As you go up in age, you know, what you learn are, some things are role modeling, gender behavior, you know, how do you treat girls can be part of a show. I think we have a wonderful show called Sci Girls where 8 to 12-year-old girls are doing science experiments. So it's something where you may be learning something specific that might be part of your science curriculum, but what you're really learning is, that's really wonderful. I want to do that when I grow up. I want to study the environment. I want to. So television is a wonderful motivational medium, and I don't think you can underestimate that. So for programs that are reaching teen and tween audiences, motivation is part. We do have a show that celebrates imagination. So, you know, what do you mean? Do you learn imagination? You see people doing things that are imaginative. You begin to appreciate what that means. So there's things that are outside of what you're going to learn in school. And I think motivating people to understand what they can be is really the power of television.
And now, maybe I would like you maybe to give an advice, because we have kids who are watching, TV is regulated, but we have others who are doing things like TikTok, we have others who are watching things like video games. And we understand that internet has a big impact in the behavior of a child. There are times that you watch, maybe you have observed a child, they're watching about guns, and then they'll make a small gun, and that grows, you know, from the base is where the child character is developing. Maybe how can parents balance between regulated and unregulated?
We did recently produce a series called Flash Squad, which was featured this morning. That's 6 times 7-minute episodes that look specifically at 6 of the dangers for children going online. And part of that was to heighten for them what are some of the dangers out there. And then each program gave some advice in terms of what you can do if you should fall into a problem. Also giving advice to you know, contact or speak to a teacher or a parent. I think that that is a specific way for educating both the children, but what we found in the research study that we did, where we interviewed the parents who had seen the show and the kids, was that the parents were learning along with them. We've had a couple of meetings with the Kenyan Film Classification Board that is looking at, well, what is the role of the regulatory agency in Kenya? And what are the kinds of things that they might be able to do to educate parents? So there's absolutely something where parents need to be educated both around what are some of the dangers that are out there, figuring out strategies for themselves in terms of how do I help my child avoid those. I think one of the sort of amusing things was that you would like to think that the software that's out there, or that Netflix, let's say, provides in terms of child protection, where you're not allowing kids to see certain content. Most of the people I've talked to who have children who are teenagers go, yeah, but my teenager is smart enough to figure out how to hack around it. So that sort of says that direct control, telling them not to do there or trying to put things in place that don't allow them to go there, aren't likely to work. So you really end up having to get into a dialogue with your teens and get educated yourself. So I think that there is an opportunity to do programs, and whether that's both on the ground, online, regulations, and also on television to educate parents.
Now, we have this watershed period. If you have maybe been watching our TV station, just based on your observation, we have this time from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. How are we doing in Kenya in terms of producing content for kids? Because in that time, you're supposed to produce content that is kids-friendly until 10 p.m. From where you sit, just your observation, and maybe you can rate us. So far, how are we doing and where are we headed? Do you see people who are willing to invest, or we have a focus on kids' content?
You know, I think that the thing that's sort of stunning is how we're a niche channel. And our core target is the 48% of the population that's 17 and under. So there's absolutely a need for more content. I'd say that it would be wonderful if the Universal Access Fund put money not just for us, but for all of the broadcasters to produce more children's content. I think it's part of our role to raise the funding to allow us to invest more in the production of children's content. So that's a wish, but I think it's also something where the Kenyan government does have an opportunity to develop more jobs in the media or creative economy. And I think that, I would hope that in the not too distant future, you see more and more export of content, both children and for adult, coming out of Kenya. There's a huge talent base here.
When it comes to kids' content, there is a lot to talk about. But due to time, I would like us to wrap up there. And maybe you could give us your parting shot. Tell us your aim as Achilles Kids, what are your goals? Just a summary of your parting shot and your hopes for going forward.
Well, I think that making sure that we continue to have the impact that we're having, and I say the impact where we periodically do studies to measure that in fact we're delivering on our promise, that children are learning things, that parents see that, and whether that learning is at the youngest age or for teens. I think it would be great for us to do more episodes of Flash Squad, because we've just sort of scratched the surface, so that it becomes a really great program for parents and kids to learn together about the dangers of the internet and strategies for making it safe for them.
That brings us an end to our segment about the kids and production as well, and the TV production as well. Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure you have given very detailed information, and we look forward to having you here again. And you have heard from the expert who is talking so much. He's an expert. He's the co-founder of Achilles Kids. And of course, for the lovers of Achilles Kids, do make sure to watch this again and keep the comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa in all our social media handles.